Last month, we talked about Ezra. You might know the writer Ezra Pound. You might know the band Better Than Ezra. There's a book in the Bible, Ezra. You just recap real fast. Ezra felt too much responsibility in his life. You've been there. Ezra felt ashamed because he couldn't handle all his responsibility. You've probably been there. Ezra had his brief moment of grace and kind of powered through. You've been there. But at the end, he had a little problem. He had a little problem in Israel where people were returning there and people were selling their daughters into marriage with people who already lived in Israel. And that was not a good thing. So this guy Shechaniah said, hey, if God doesn't want us to treat our women like this, so we should fix it. That's kind of obvious, right? So what do you think happened? That wasn't the end of the book. What do you think happened? Shechaniah comes and says, Ezra, we should fix this. What do you think?
They fixed it?
You think they fixed it? Raise your hand if we have a positive thought that they fixed it. Hey, that's optimist all of a sudden. Okay, so someone else give me another option. What else do you think they did?
They ran him out of town.
They ran Shechaniah out of town? That's the good pessimist for us. Who thinks they ran Shechaniah out of town?
Sounds good.
Okay. Who thinks somewhere in between? Okay, you get the first one.
Get up, Ezra, for it is your duty to tell us how to proceed in setting things straight. We are behind you, so be strong and take action.
Okay, Ashley? Oh, okay.
So Ezra stood up and demanded that the leaders of the priests and the Levites and all the people of Israel swear that they would do as Shechaniah had said. And they all swore a solemn oath. Then the whole assembly raised their voices and answered, yes, you were right. We must do as you say.
Awesome. You think you got it. You think you were the right one. Well, if only it could be a happy ending. I wish I could tell you they all ran out of there and they did. We must do as you were saying. But life doesn't always work that way. I wish I could tell you that when you have problems, you can just go and find some magic formula and kind of be done with it, kind of fix it, just conquer everything, see hope, grab hope. This isn't necessarily religious, this isn't something novel, but you know that that's just not how it happens. There aren't simple answers in this stuff. We rely on each other, we rest, we work things out together, was what y'all had last time. Sometimes we just keep plugging away and fighting through it, and we get there. Sometimes we just get our head above the water because we have these little moments of grace through our life, with someone smiling at us, a beautiful sunrise, whatever it might be. We can rejoice, we move forward, but this is how they responded after this. Caitlin, this one's all for you.
Then they added, this isn't something that can be done in a day or two, for many of us are involved in this extremely sinful affair. And this is the rainy season, so we cannot stay here much longer.
Yeah, it's the rainy season, so we need to keep selling our daughters. Right? Just postpone the problem. We'll deal with it tomorrow. Now, obviously, we all know that. I'm probably worse than most of you at postponing things that I don't want to do, and finally I get to it, and maybe it's bad, maybe it's ripping off the Band-Aid. I'm not good at ripping off the Band-Aid. I really am not. I just want to, just don't want to do these kind of things. And Ezra the same way, doesn't have the courage, doesn't have the strength, doesn't have the influence or whatever it takes to convince these people to get it done right now. There are other people out there doing stuff. And so, I don't know, what in your life? You got a conversation that you should have with someone in your life? Love or family or whatnot? You just kind of put it off. You're not ready to have that conversation. You're scared about what might happen. It's just too hard to start it, so you're just going to stay the course. You just leave the situation as it is. Or maybe you got a change to make, and you say, oh, wait till after the holidays. Right? Maybe something simple, like I'm going to eat healthier, and then it was all of a sudden Christmas, and there's brownies back there, and there's always brownies back there, and so you just put it off. I don't know what it could be. Maybe you realize you have something deeper in your life you got to fix, but you keep putting it off. God, help me, just put this drink away from me, or help me just be nicer to my wife, or whatever. But you just put it off. Somehow you lose that strength to it. There's a guy named St. Augustine. He's an old school. He was a monk. Way back in the 300-somethings, late 300s. He started his life into the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They didn't have rock and roll yet, but they had all the other stuff. So he was a very promiscuous guy. At 17, he went off to college, and he partied. Eventually, he became a monk, but he had a child out of wedlock. He was always hanging out with friends that were kind of bad influence, and yet he was still, he His heart was always pulled toward God, pulled toward doing something for God. He just didn't know what. So eventually, about 30 years old, he's feeling this pull as strong as it's ever been. He finally has the courage to kind of take that step, and he gives out a classic prayer that you can insert the word your word wherever you need, but he says, Lord, give me chastity, but not quite yet. That was this was our party animal monk, and if you like party animal monks, he's your guy. But he just prayed, honestly, fervently, like Ezra did last time. Just not yet. We've all been there. 9 o'clock at night. Lord, give me strength to do something. I have a 9 o'clock at night prayer. When 7 o'clock in the morning comes, the day looks different in the daytime. It's hard to get through those New Year's resolutions. It's hard to treat people better when you know you've done wrong. Sometimes you just want to say, I'll do this maybe later. Yeah, I don't want us to go away thinking that Ezra is somehow immoral or bad, or that St. Augustine was immoral or bad, or that you're immoral or bad or lazy or indifferent or anything. All of us try. All of us persevere. We haven't persevered through all those things that you talked about to start the service. You turn to your neighbor and hopefully had a good story about persevering through something, about meeting those responsibilities. At the same time, I'm not accusing, and this isn't supposed to be taken as just a fun. But what about that moment we all go through where our patience does run out? Our patience just gets to its end. Parents probably feel this, Little one just, there's just a point where the blood boils, right? You're in a relationship, this probably happens. If you know anyone in your life that's important to you, there's a point where patience just runs out. If you have anything in your life that you feel is a habit or an addiction or just a pattern in your life, there's a point when all that willpower just runs out. If God just intended us to just get more willpower to get things through things, that's not going to do it. It's not going to get us through. We know that God tells us, I got to go forgive, but I just don't have the courage to deal with it right now. There's so many things that I can't figure out without complaining about it first. That's me. And I've been through enough, God. I've had enough. So my level of patience is done. You think like that? You think that you just kind of get overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is a good word for it. Here's the good news, though. In being overwhelmed in our life, everyone gets there. That's the good news. You're not lazy or indifferent or weak or abnormal. God's not pointing his finger and smiting you for being impatient in the world. You're normal. You're human. Let's hear the good news. This is Christianity boiled down to just Jesus. Right there. Let's all read this together. In this world there will be trouble, but take heart, I will overcome the world. This is Jesus straight up his words. He's not saying that you might have trouble. He's not saying bad people out there, you're going to have trouble. He's not saying, listen, I'm going to give you trouble if you're gay or black or a woman. He's not saying that. He's saying you will have trouble. Everyone, short, tall, everyone. You're going to have trouble. But he's not saying, I'm going to overcome it for you and you and you. He's not saying there's a formula for overcoming it. And that formula is believing this and saying this and doing this. No formulas. This is a short verse. Three little sentences. I will overcome the world. It's pretty awesome, good news from our Jesus. We all love our heroes to overcome, right? This is we're proud of ourselves when we overcome. We're proud of our sports stars when they overcome. Some try fourth quarter. Man, that Razorback game a couple nights ago killed me. If I wanted them to overcome at the end, they didn't, and I just was depressed. Carolina Panthers, you ready to overcome? Did you see the news today? Andrew Luck is staying in school.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's going to be bad news. I know, Annie, you're ready to sell your tickets, aren't you? Well, I guess that's a good thing, yeah. But you love your sports stars to overcome when it's down to your boxing movies are always like, falling down 3 times. You love your movies to be about people who overcome things. I mean, what Oscar isn't about someone who's overcome a physical disability or some life situation, Just think, real quick, of your top 5 movies that you love, and probably 3 of them have something to do with someone who's fallen on down on their luck. Go their way back. We love overcoming. David Wilcox, he's a, you guys know David, he's a songwriter, awesome, he squeezes a little bit of theology into otherwise some funny songs, but he has this line, look, if someone wrote a play just to glorify what's stronger than hate, would they not arrange the stage to look as if the hero came too late? He's almost in defeat, it's looking like the evil side will win, so on the edge of every seat from the moment that the world begins. To him, Jesus is this overcoming. Whether in your life or in his example, maybe that's what Jesus' example was, overcoming from the worst trouble you could have, from the edge of death, from the edge of persecution. So I can trust these words. I don't know. Those words up there. I can trust them. I don't know how I'm going to trust them. I don't know how God is going to work in my life. My life is different than yours. I have different issues than you have. And if I can't tell what God's going to do in my life to overcome the world, I don't have a clue what God's going to do in your life. But we said in the first Thursday night worship that you and God are smart enough to figure it out. Somewhere you're going to leave here, something's going to touch your heart down, maybe later, maybe tonight, maybe later, I don't know what it is. God's going to touch your heart, figure out how that is.